If you thought you'd heard the last of me banging on about The Between, well, you thought wrong. The game is currently crowdfunding a brand new edition, and I have been lucky enough to be granted a sneak peek, and I'm going to pass some of that information on to you, lucky people. But first, what actually is The Between, and why should you care? Well, last time I tried to answer that, my video turned out to be 20 long, effusively gushing minutes, but I'm on the clock here, so I better rein it in. The Between is a tabletop role-playing game by Jason Cordova about mysterious monster hunters in Victorian-era London. It is a game designed for a GM, or keeper as they are called, and up to 4 players who take on the roles of hunters who are investigating monstrous threats terrorising London, threats that Scotland Yard can't or won't handle themselves. Whilst doing so, the hunters will slowly uncover things about the world, namely their own and each other's dark, mysterious pasts, but also the machinations of a dastardly mastermind pulling the strings behind the scenes. The game draws its playbooks, moves, and resolution mechanics from the Powered by the Apocalypse system, but in addition, The Between uses the award-winning Brindlewood Bay's clue and mystery mechanics. Gameplay involves the hunters gathering seemingly unrelated scraps of information as they investigate each threat. When they think they have enough clues, the players will try to concoct a plausible theory to tie it all together in order to answer the question at the heart of the mystery. Only then can they resolve the threat. And if that gameplay loop wasn't satisfying enough, and trust me, it is incredibly satisfying, The Between is elevated by several notable features and procedures that make this one of the most interesting and, dare I say it, unique games out there. Each hunter's playbook is somewhat asymmetric, meaning every player at the table has their own way of engaging with the game and the world, and each hunter is explicitly forbidden from talking about their dark and mysterious pasts unless prompted to do so by the game's rules. One of these rules, the Janus Mask, ensures we as players only learn the hunters' backstories at the most tense and impactful moments possible, and only in the most dramatically interesting ways. On top of this, there are several narrative mechanics embedded in the game that help bring the world of The Between to life, the most unique of which is the Unseen, which sees the players taking turns to narrate vignettes entirely unrelated to what the hunters are doing elsewhere in London. The genius twist here is that the players are incentivized to thematically link these vignettes to the action the hunters are embroiled in, which leads to some of the most dynamic, inventive fiction-first gaming and storytelling I have ever witnessed around a table. All of these features, which I have barely scratched the surface of, combine to make The Between a remarkable experience. It is truly like nothing else I have ever played. It is my favourite game, and it absolutely could be yours too. The Between has been available in its preview edition for about 3 years now, and the design team have listened to all the player feedback and built upon what they've learned from watching people actually play this game to hone and enhance it in this new edition. The Backer Kit campaign will, for the very first time, see The Between released in a beautiful print edition spread across not 1, not 2, but 3 glorious full-colour volumes. The first book is where you will find The Between's core rules, which have been expanded and revised. Everything you need to run a full season of the game is here, with all 6 classic playbooks, plus the extra one that we try not to talk about. There are 11 unique threats and 1 mastermind, Theodora Brathwaite, the legendary pirate queen of Barbuda, who is hatching a diabolical plan to bring the crown to its knees. Over the course of the campaign, it is up to the hunters to figure out what that plan is, and ultimately confront Theodora and stop her by any means necessary. The second book is The Shadow Society and features a vast amount of expansion material. This includes 2 extra playbooks, 9 more threats, and another mastermind, the truly terrifying Vice Admiral Flag, who introduces an ungodly dose of cosmic horror to the game. The third book is evocatively titled Sons of Another World and features 3 completely different, self-contained campaign settings for your games of the Between, taking the story off the smoggy streets of Victorian London. In Ghosts of El Paso, the action relocates to the American West, with players becoming members of the Vigilance Committee, defending the small Texan town of El Paso from supernatural horrors brought into our world by a seasonal phenomena known as the Wounded Knight. Unsinkable is set entirely on board the RMS Kronos, an ocean liner making its maiden voyage across the Atlantic. The players take up the roles of the crew and passengers of the Kronos, attempting to unravel the mysterious goings-on and confront the forces behind them before the ship reaches its final destination. Lastly, there is Court of Wolves, where the players are the secret internal security team at Versailles during the time of Louis XIV. Whilst the royal court deals with real-life historical events, the hunters have to contend with darker threats brooding in the shadows. Satanic cults infiltrating the French aristocracy, monstrous werewolves stalking the woods outside the palace, and the mysterious Moon King, who some say may be the exiled twin brother of King Louis himself. All 3 of these incredibly evocative settings come with their own bespoke playbooks, threats, and masterminds. Ghosts of El Paso has been a playable setting for a while, but here it has been updated to bring it in line with the Between's revised core rules. Unsinkable and Court of Wolves, however, are both completely new, and I've had a bit of time reading through these, and whilst I am sworn to secrecy, I can reveal that you are in for a veritable treat. In addition to the core rules being updated, there have also been some more notable changes in this edition. One that experienced players will notice is how the Mastermind works. It is now slightly more difficult to find Mastermind clues, but crucially, these clues can now be used to answer the Mastermind question. This removes the need for the keeper to write the Mastermind threat and now actually ties the clues that the hunters discover into the actual resolution, meaning they are no longer just context and are less about being the timer ticking down to the Mastermind confrontation. This is a really smart change. It makes the Mastermind's integration into the story a lot cleaner, but it also means that the hunters might try and take on the Mastermind earlier in the campaign than they ordinarily would, meaning that there is real flexibility in terms of the campaign structure, and also means that your table might get to introduce a new second Mastermind if and when the hunters deal with the first. The fan favourite threat, the King in Shadows, which is pretty out there as far as the threats go, has been added to the threats in the main book, but other than that, the changes to the core rules are more refinements and tweaks rather than broad sweeping changes. The really exciting changes can be found in the Shadow Society book, the most exciting of which are the new additional rules concerning Hargrave House, the strange, impossible mansion that is the place of residence and work for the hunters. In the last edition, hunters would plan their nightly work in a different room of Hargrave House each session, using paint the scene questions to bring each room to life. It was a nice bit of business, but it didn't go much further than just adding a bit of texture. There were, I think, 14 or 15 rooms to describe, which was enough to get you through one campaign. In the new edition, Hargrave House not only has more than 50 unique rooms to explore, but doing so unlocks a powerful new ability tied to each room, an ability that the hunters can then use in-game to aid them in tackling threats. In addition to this, side characters who are claimed as rewards after threats are resolved can now take up permanent residence in Hargrave House, making them a much more integral part of the story. There are now more than 30 side characters available in this way, but be sure to think twice about who you invite to stay. That's not me being coy, I just think that the man in the sun mask would be the most profoundly irritating housemate of all time, and just be careful. The campaign also promises a glut of stretch goals that by the time you're watching this will probably have been unlocked. These include not only upgrades to the physical materials, but more beautiful artwork and, excitingly, new playbooks, new threats, and perhaps, just perhaps, some otherworldly masterminds. Oh, and I almost forgot. The campaign also includes these exclusive Mastermind dice. 4 sets of 3d6, each coloured to match a particular mastermind, 2 of which you'll know about from the off. The other 2 may just reveal themselves later. And yeah, they also glow in the dark, which is just good, clean fun, isn't it? So that's my preview of the new edition of The Between, and honestly, there is so much more in there that I don't have time to talk about, or that I want to talk about but can't for fear of being sent off to Fig's pie shop, never to return. You'll find all the links and everything you need to hop on and back the campaign right now in the description below, and I recommend you do just that immediately. Thanks to the Gauntlet for giving me the inside scoop, and thanks to all my patrons for just being generally awesome and tolerant of me waffling on about The Between when I should be making Ironspawn videos. Their eternal patience knows no bounds. Until next time, it is farewell and safe passage.